Hello, welcome back. This is our second conversation about the things you need to know to take your next steps forward now that you've gotten a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. We talked about the different symptoms of BPD. Now we're going to talk about a core feature that drives these symptoms and causes their changes. A lot of us in the field believe that interpersonal hypersensitivity is what defines borderline personality disorder. What that means is that people who have BPD are born sensitive to the responsiveness of others. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story for how this works. When people start out in a relationship that's really important to them and they feel connected, the relationship is going well and they feel like they're worthy of care from others and like others are capable of caring about them. This is the most steady state that a person with BPD can be in. However, because they rely on it so much, people with BPD tend to be very vigilant to signs that that person could leave them. What leaving them means could range from just having a normal disagreement, being apart for a little bit of time, or being criticized. In some situations, it also means being rejected or having a breakup in a relationship. When someone who's highly dependent on a relationship in which they feel cared for feels threatened, they start to act in a very different way. We call this simply the threatened state, or stage 2. When people feel threatened, they become angry. They can either turn this anger inward and harm themselves in a variety of ways, or they can turn this anger outward and lash out, blaming others and devaluing them, even if just a moment ago that person was the most important thing in their world. Of course, these behaviors of being self-damaging or being angrily devaluing tends to push other people away. Now, when the person with borderline personality disorder is actually alone, because people around them feel confused, anxious, or angry about their threatened state behaviors, they then feel more lost and uncontained. What that means is they're not feeling anchored to reality anymore. In this state, stage 3, people with BPD will oftentimes become really impulsive, as if no consequences matter to them when they take action. In addition, they can feel really paranoid, not sure if anyone out there will be helpful, and fairly sure that others out there will be harmful to them. Of course, when you're feeling this way, reckless, alone, and paranoid, it's easy to feel despair. And that's what defines the 4th stage. In this stage, a person feels like they need to just give up. Life is so difficult, out of control, and dangerous. So in this state, we become more concerned about patients who have BPD, because in this state, patients with BPD become more seriously suicidal. This requires intervention, of course. So when a person is more seriously suicidal, it oftentimes raises flags so that other people respond. In a clinical sense, what happens is that people intervene by sending you to the emergency room or into the hospital to be safe. In your social world, what this may mean is that others rally around you and start to express their concern, asking you, "What's wrong? How can we help?" Either set of interventions can make you feel more connected and like people care. This can return you to stage 1, that is the connected state. Alternatively, Sometimes the people around you will act angrily and with irritation towards you for scaring them and being in such an unmanageable place. But still there's good news, because this returns you to a connected state where you're more angrily threatened instead of out of control. So the summary of this model is really to instruct you that it's important to lean into your relationships and try to work things out as you alternate from being connected to being threatened. What you're going to need to learn is how to communicate better about how you feel, what bothers you, and what you need. This will stabilize your relationships so that you don't end up in a situation where you're constantly rejected and feeling alone and desperate. I hope that explanation has clarified for you all the confusing ups and downs of your BPD symptoms. It's one way of thinking about your problems so that you can work on being more pro-social, meaning taking care of your interactions with others so that you get what you need out of them. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you tomorrow.